Hello, today we're going to review solving one-step equations, and we're going to use all four operations. So the goal in solving equations algebraically is to isolate the variable on one side of the equal sign and number on the other side. The process of doing this requires us to use the inverse operations. And so we're going to be undoing addition and subtraction in order to zero out the constant. And we're going to be undoing multiplication division to get a coefficient of 1. So here's the plan. We're going to do one column, and I'm going to ask you to turn to the back and do the 3 example problems, and then look back and check your answers and make corrections if needed. And then we'll go on to the next column. So for the equation below, the variable x is being multiplied by 3. So let's write that in, please. So we must divide by 3. So that's the opposite operation. So we're going to build our wall. We're going to divide by 3 on both sides. And then that allows us to get a coefficient of 1. So we have 1x, which is x. That's our goal, is to isolate the variable. And 27 divided by 3 is 9. So the solving step is equally as important as the answer. So we want to learn to build that solving step. Please don't skip that. Would you please turn to the back side and complete the next 3, and then check to see your answers. If you need to make corrections, do so. After you solve this, what is your answer? We divide by -6 on both sides, and the answer is -3, and that's because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. What is the answer for this equation? The answer is +6. We need to divide a negative by a negative, therefore it is negative. What is the solving step for this particular equation? We divide by 9. Even though this equation looks like it's being written backwards, we do not divide by -72. The solution is -8 equals A, or if you wanted to write A equals -8, that's okay too. Let's move to the front side again in our second operation. For this equation below, x is being divided by 5. So we must do what? We must multiply by 5, the inverse operation. So this one many students do this in a variety of forms. You can choose to write this as a fraction, or you could just write 5 next to the x, as we saw for the Math Antics video. So I'm showing the same operation on both sides. On this side, I'm just choosing to write it in fraction form. On this side, I'm choosing to write it as a whole number. So what happens on this side is I get 5x divided by 5. And on this side, I have 35. And my goal is to have this be a coefficient of 1. Now I have 1 times x is x, and the answer is still 35. You could have solved the same equation simply by multiplying by 5 on both sides, and that would have created a coefficient of 1, canceling out the 5's, and we'd still get the same solution. So it's your choice. Would you go to the back side and complete the next 3 problems? Thank you. What is the answer to this equation? The answer is y equals -28. Excuse me. We have to be careful that we multiply. If we're given a negative, we multiply by a negative on both sides. Let's go to the next equation. The answer to this equation is, the solution is m equals 12. Please find the solution for our final problem in this column. The answer is 30 equals x, or x equals 30, whichever you prefer. and you can just simply multiply it as he did in the Math Antics video. Now let's go on to our next operation. Please turn to the front side. For our next equation, 6 is being what to the variable x? 6 is being added. So we must subtract 6 in order to solve it. So we want to show our wall, and the opposite of adding 6 is to subtract 6. Now, you can also look at this like it's a positive 6 and a negative 6 if you prefer, and those zero out. We can cancel them out if you prefer to look at it that way. And so x is 11. We can always check our equations by mentally saying, okay, 11, if I put 11 here, added 6 to it, it will give me back 17. Would you please go to the back and do the 3 problems in this column? What is the solution for a plus 6 equals negative 13? Okay, a equals negative 19, and sometimes this is tricky. You can think of this as negative 13 plus negative 6, if that helps you. But a common mistake would be say this is 7 or negative 7. If you use your calculator and put in negative 13 minus 6, it will give you this answer. Please go on to the next equation. What is w plus negative 8 equals 11? This particular equation is tricky. And we had a lesson on what happens when we have these double signs. I think personally that it's best to just rewrite it. So I would choose to rewrite this as w minus 8 equals 11, because both of these equations mean the same thing. If I add a negative, it moves me down the number line. If I subtract a positive, it also moves me down the number line. So if I rewrite it, now it's more obvious what I need to do. I need to not erase my equal sign, come back. I need to build my wall, and now that I see that it's minus 8, I'm going to add 8 on both sides, and the answer is w equals 19. So if we try to solve this the way this is, I can do one opposite thing. I can either do the opposite and subtract negative 8, and subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding a positive. That's a wee bit confusing. Or I could choose to add, which feels uncomfortable because we're used to doing the opposite operation, but if I add a positive 8, then it will also undo this. And that's exactly what we ended up doing here. So my suggestion would be to rewrite it so that I don't see these double signs here, which is often confusing. All right, let's look at our final problem in this column. What is the solution for 23 equals y plus 9? The answer is 14 equals y, or y equals 14. That one was a little bit kinder and gentler. So let's go to our last operation on the front of the page. For the equation below, 8 is being subtracted from the variable x. So let's write that down. So we must add 8, the inverse operation. So we're going to give ourselves a demonstration problem. We're adding because we see subtraction. This cancels out. Actually, it mathematically becomes 0, and x plus 0 is x, using the identity property. And our answer is x equals 25. So turn to the back now, please, and complete the 3 equations in the last column. What is the solution for a minus 7 equals negative 15? The answer is negative 8. If I show the check, I'd replace a with negative 8. I'd subtract 7, and I'd get negative 15. So that is correct. If you put this in your calculator, it will give you back that. Now let's look at the next equation. Once again, I see double signs. What do you think might be helpful before we solve this? If you said rewrite the equation, I think that's your best option. In fact, um, you're always going to be encouraged when you see minus and negative to not keep it in this form. The simplest form would be to use a keep, change, change, meaning I keep the n, I change this to a plus, and I change this to its opposite. And so when I look at this, it's much easier to know what to do. So your best option would be to go ahead and when you do see double signs, go ahead and change it. So now please tell me what the solution to this equation is. All right, the answer is n equals 21. And I'd like you to go ahead and check this in your calculator. If I replace n with 21, I put minus in my calculator, -7. Let's see if it gives you back 29. Go ahead and pause and do that. All right, let's go to our final equation. -47 equals a minus 11. Please solve that. And the solution is -36 equals a. One thing I didn't address earlier in the video is we can always, if you don't like seeing it backwards, we could move whatever's on the right side and switch it with whatever's on the left side. But we have to keep the same order. The a minus 11, it can't be 11 minus a. And then finally, since we have this answer, let's check to see if this is correct. Supposedly 47 equals -36 minus 11. So if you want to check that on your calculator, you're welcome to, and it will be true. Thank you very much for watching the video, and take care.